You spent months waiting for your global entry interview. You showed up, answered the questions, and then got a letter saying you were denied. Or maybe you never even made it to the interview, your application was just flagged and stuck in limbo. Either way, you are not alone. Tens of thousands of applicants are denied or conditionally approved every single year, and most of them have no idea why it happened or what they can do about it. Here's what nobody tells you: denial is not always the end. There is an appeals process that most people never use, and there are very specific, fixable reasons why applications get rejected in the first place. Today we are going to break all of it down so you know exactly what to expect, what to avoid, and what to do if things go wrong. Let us start with some numbers that will put this in perspective. U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, manages the Global Entry Program, and they have broad discretion when it comes to approvals. They do not publish their exact denial rate, but independent estimates suggest anywhere from 5 to 15% of applicants are denied or placed in a conditional approval status, which is essentially a soft denial while they gather more information. That adds up to a significant number of people every year who paid the $85 fee, waited months for an appointment, and still walked away without the program. Here's the part that surprises most people. Many denials are not because someone did something obviously disqualifying. They happen because of paperwork errors, misunderstood eligibility rules, or background information that CBP flagged but the applicant did not know how to address. And unless you understand how the review process actually works, you will probably just accept the denial and move on, losing your fee and your time. When you submit a global entry application through the Trusted Traveler Programs portal, CBP runs a background check that pulls from multiple databases. This includes criminal history at the federal and often state level, immigration records, customs enforcement records, watch lists, and information from foreign governments in some cases. They are also looking at your travel history, specifically whether you have visited countries that raise concerns, and whether you have had any prior customs violations, even minor ones. The officer assigned to your file has significant discretionary authority. They are not just checking boxes. They are making a judgment call about whether you represent a low-risk traveler. That means two people with similar backgrounds can get different outcomes depending on how their file is reviewed, which is why understanding the nuances matters so much. After CBP makes a preliminary decision, you either get approved for an interview, placed in conditional approval status, or denied outright. If you are conditionally approved, you will receive a letter explaining that CBP needs more information before making a final decision. This is actually an opportunity, not a dead end, but most people do not treat it that way. Let us talk about the specific reasons applications get flagged or denied, because this is where things get really important. First, criminal history. This is the most common reason for denial, and the nuances here are significant. CBP does not automatically deny everyone with any criminal record. What they look at is the nature of the offense, how long ago it occurred, and whether it involves specific categories like drug trafficking, crimes involving fraud or deception, or anything related to customs and immigration violations. Here is where people go wrong. They either fail to disclose something because they assumed an old charge was expunged or too minor to matter, or they disclose something without providing any context. Both approaches hurt you. CBP can discover records you thought were sealed. And if they find something you did not disclose, that omission itself becomes a red flag about your honesty and reliability. Second, travel to certain countries. CBP does not have a published list of countries that automatically disqualify you, but travel to nations under heavy U.S. sanctions, or countries associated with terrorism financing, drug trafficking, or hostile foreign intelligence activity, will trigger additional scrutiny. This includes recent travel to places like Iran, North Korea, Cuba, or certain parts of conflict zones. If you have traveled to these areas for legitimate reasons, whether for journalism, humanitarian work, family visits, or business, you need to be prepared to explain that clearly and with documentation. Applicants who simply list the travel and offer no context are much more likely to be denied. Third, prior customs violations. This one catches people off guard. If you have ever been stopped at a U.S. port of entry and had items seized, paid a fine, or been issued a warning for undeclared goods, that record exists in CBP's system. Bringing in more than the allowed cash amount without declaring it, failing to declare agricultural products, or even an old undeclared purchase from a foreign trip, these are all on your record. Applicants often forget these incidents entirely and then are blindsided when CBP brings them up. Fourth, incorrect or inconsistent application information. The Global Entry application asks detailed questions about your employment history, international travel, and background. If the information you provide does not match what CBP finds in their databases, even minor discrepancies in dates or employer names, it raises questions. CBP is looking for people who are precise and truthful. Sloppy applications signal the opposite. The people who get approved, even with complicated backgrounds, do a few things differently. They do their homework before submitting. They pull their own background check, not just a basic consumer credit report, but an actual criminal background check, and in some cases they request their own CBP travel records through a FOIA request to understand what is already in the system. They document everything. If they have traveled to sensitive countries, they have a clear, factual explanation ready. If they have an old charge, they understand exactly what it is, what the disposition was, and whether it falls into a disqualifying category or simply a reviewable one. They also know about the appeals process. If you are denied global entry, you have the right to seek redress through the DHS Traveler Redress Inquiry Program, known as DHS TRIP. This is not a guaranteed reversal, but it is a formal channel to submit additional information, correct errors in government records, and request a review of your case. Many applicants who were initially denied have successfully reversed those decisions through this process, but only if they submit a well-organized, properly documented appeal. A vague letter saying you disagree with the decision will accomplish nothing. For deeper guidance on navigating the application and appeal process, the team at globalentrypriority.com has put together some of the most detailed and up-to-date resources available on this specific topic. It is worth checking out before you apply or before you give up on an application that hit a wall. Here is exactly what to do if your application is denied or stuck. Step 1. Read your denial or conditional approval letter carefully. CBP is required to give you a general reason for the decision. It will not always be specific, but it will point you in a direction. Common language includes references to criminal history, prior customs violations, or inability to satisfy all program requirements. Step 2. Gather your own records. Request a background check on yourself and, if you suspect customs history is involved, submit a FOIA request to CBP for your personal enforcement records. This can take several weeks, but it is essential for building your appeal. Step 3. Identify the specific issue. Is it a records error? An undisclosed incident? Unexplained travel? The fix depends entirely on the root cause. Do not write a general appeal, write a precise one that directly addresses the reason for denial. Step 4. Submit a DHS TRIP inquiry. Go to the official DHS TRIP portal, which is trip.dhs.gov, and file your case. Include your denial letter, your documentation, and a clear, factual written explanation. This is not the place for emotional arguments. Stick to facts, dates, and supporting documents. Step 5. Wait and follow up. DHS TRIP cases can take several months. You can check your case status through the portal. If you are asked for additional information, respond promptly and thoroughly. Step 6. If your appeal is unsuccessful, you can reapply after a waiting period. Some denial reasons are permanent, but many are not. If your situation has changed, time has passed since an offense, you have additional documentation, or a records error has been corrected, a new application may succeed where the first one did not. Global entry denial feels like a dead end, but for most people it is not. The program is highly valuable. You get expedited customs clearance, automatic TSA pre-check, and you skip the standard customs lines entirely when you return from international travel. It is worth fighting for. The key is understanding exactly why you were denied, addressing it directly, and using every legitimate tool available to you, including the appeals process that most applicants never even attempt. Do not guess. Do not just reapply without changing anything. Get the information, build your case, and approach it the way CBP wants to see, with precision, honesty, and thorough documentation. That is what gets results.